All right, welcome back, and it's now time for us to get into the next segment, People and Politics. I want us to focus on matters that is going to be affecting us today, and of course, days to have. A lot is happening. Cabinet sat yesterday and approved, among other issues, the GMO that has been uplifted. The ban has been lifted, and now, in an aim to cushion Kenyans against the ravaging hunger that we have currently, and of course we have Parliament will resume its official sitting today at 2:30 p.m. So a lot is expected in terms of legislation and what we should expect. All right, politically speaking, we have Dr. Joseph Rotich in studio. I'm also joined briefly, shortly, by Gilbert Awino, who is a political analyst and lawyer. Daktari, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Oloo.
Welcome to the program. So far, so good. We are making progress as far as the government is concerned. The issue of drought is affecting, and when you see the president calling for a meeting to ratify some of the decisions of the cabinet, the GMO, what do you think as far as that's concerned?
I think, Oloo, it is actually real that we are facing a crisis as a country, having 23 counties affected by the drought. And you have seen a lot of late, a lot of animals dying. It is catastrophic, and it is actually a crisis that the government must actually look into ways and means of saving the people. Because once all these animals are dead, it has also been reported that there is a lot of, lack of food. There is a food crisis in most of the places. And although unless the government address it and make it a national disaster, it may not actually attract the kind of attention that it deserves to save the many people, about 3.5 million people who are actually starving as we are talking today. And although the issues of the GMO, of course, this country must always look at those scientific findings which can really enhance the food production. And if GMO is anything to go by Oloo, we are not choosing now. We want plenty of food. We want to see farmers succeeding in their farming and then farm productions. And if we have to go scientific law, I think there is nothing that can hinder the country actually of not changing the same. I know the whole issue has been very controversial. In the past, it has been, people were against the whole thing. But this is the time, law, that we must embrace. And such very demanding times, law demands also equal measure of the upper measures. And in this case, the government is actually going that not because there is a sinister motive. It is because of the need to satisfy the Kenyans as it is now. As far as the food security is concerned.
Okay. So according to the memo dated Monday, that is yesterday, 3rd, the ban has been lifted in accordance with the recommendation of the task force to review matters relating to genetically modified foods and food safety. The ban prohibited the open cultivation of genetically modified crops and the importation of food crops and animal feeds produced through biotechnology innovations. Now, the cabinet has also effectively lifted the ban on genetically modified crops. That is according to the memo. So that is all in the effort to cushion Kenyans from the ravaging hunger and to lift the effects of food production in the country. All right, joining me now is Gilbert Awino. Habari asubuhi.
Nzuri bana. I know.
Daktari was here. Where's Gilbert? Where's Gilbert?
Awino pita ndani.
All right. Karibu sana. Yeah. We've just started talking this issue of GMO. It was lifted. Actually, it was banned 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But then now, when this cabinet sat yesterday, they ratified and they lifted the ban. What do you think? And according to World Health Organization, different lobby groups and, so far like African Biodiversity Network, they've also expressed concern, adding that the government is taking advantage of the hunger situation in the country. What do you think?
Remember that it was banned in 2012, just before the current administration,
yes.
Still current because they haven't yet sworn in the new cabinet secretary. And now, look at the situation now. You have Matiang'i and the rest still sitting in the cabinet and asked to perhaps make recommendations and ultimately, solutions on the food security. At this point in time, based on where some of the cabinet secretaries were, you would imagine that any proposal that comes before them now, they don't have the spine to, competently perhaps give the president the wise counsel that it's so required. My perhaps observation around this is that yes, we are quick to immune ourselves from the ravages of poverty and food.
Yeah.
But what I would really like to hear is what is leading to food insecurity that we have is because we do not have a conducive environment for growing of the food crop. So then what should we do? I would want a conversation around sustaining everybody to be able to have a small garden in wherever they are, because we have researchers have told us that rainfall in the last 10 years has remained the same. However, the distribution has been the problem. So why can't we talk about enabling smallholder farmers to be able to reget their crops and be able to, within 3-4 months, everybody should be able to at least get something on the table.
Yeah.
But when you take it to GMOs, then because our country is not, for food consumption, is not a commercially, oriented environment. It's just food for us to eat. So I know there comes a time when we'll pay for, the consequences of science. So I think a step in the right direction, but there is a lot more that the president could have done, considering that he's doing it with the old cabinet.
Yes.
People who don't have a spine, at this point, whatever they're told, they will just say, okay, pass it, mkubwa. That's it.
Dr. I'm wondering, because at the end of the day, Kenyans are an interesting lot.
nation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'd imagine somebody would say, you need GMO, stuck here. Do you think with the introduction of GMO now, 10 years later, after the ban has been lifted, then the government will have to work extra hard to convince the masses that, you know what, it's good for human consumption?
As at the moment, Oloo, if you have no choice at all, when you don't have food, and you can say it is better to have that which can sustain you now than to go dead. So in this case, when you say it decides that you consume this one or you die, you have no choice but you have to consume it.
Do we have to get to that position of...
No, but what we are saying, Oloo, it is not that the Kenyans are endangered. I believe scientifically they have actually proven beyond any reasonable doubt that consuming these genetically produced products are actually safe. And in any case, I believe they have gone to, they have widely consulted, away from even the ministers themselves. His Excellency the President, he was in the previous government, he's in this government when the GMOs was outlawed, he was there. And currently being the President, he knows very well the impact of this genetically produced whatever. And in this case, I believe by accepting, by condoning, by actually saying, let us proceed on with this genetically produced whatever, I believe they have done enough research. And they have just okayed the whole thing, knowing that Kenyans will be safe to grow and consume the same. And Oloo, is about the agriculture, Oloo, so many things have actually been, they have discouraged the agriculture in general. You talk about the fertilizers, which have been very expensive. It was already 6,500. And then you talk about the high quality seeds which had been compromised.
Yes.
You talk about the hybrid and all this and that. We used to have high quality production of seeds, which of course some intruders actually entered into the market, and you found that most of the seeds that farmers actually got in most places actually were fake ones. So in this case, that discouragement came about because I think Kenya Bureau of Standards must come up and live up to the terms that they must scrutinize everything before it is actually
and even public participation and sensitization, because people will be adamant. I mean, when something which was banned 10 years ago and now the government has now brought it back to the market, you would imagine, my question is, do you really think now it will have to go back to the government now to start convincing the masses that this is the situation, this thing is good for human consumption, so you go ahead?
Really, not even up to the government. Eat we shall. However, the consequences will come later. Daktari here has said that in Ruto was in the previous government, but these things were actually banned by the Kibaki administration. It is not that GMO is bad. I used to write on agriculture before, and my interactions with scientists, especially in the field of food security, that GMO is not bad. The challenge that comes with GMO is that you open it to now shrewd players doing everything they can to get you food into the market. Your woman rep, Sholei, had presented to Parliament a bill that actually wanted to bar the issue of GMOs.
Yes.
Because the question was
around last year, but
even 2019, 2021. I don't know. I haven't had her speak about this now, because the question was that there are a lot of pesticides that are being used, particularly to be able to grow as much food as we can. However, some of these chemicals have been known, perhaps, to consequently lead to cancer cases, and therefore the issue around the pesticides, particularly, and herbicides that are being used. One of the companies that has been prominently mentioned is Monsanto, that makes Roundup. And Roundup, even in the sugar sector, if you speak to people who are in the sugar sector, they would tell you that Roundup was one of the fertilizers that perhaps people are really afraid of using. So GMOs are not bad, but what it opens up as to, there are many manufacturers that will bring chemicals into the market that perhaps have not been sieved, and then the consequences of this, they will give you the product you want, but ultimately people pay the price.
So it's about to scrutinize and the government now.
Yes.
Now the government will now have to come out clearly, Daktari, to supervise and be on the ground literally to ensure that the production, the whole process of having GMO in the market is well done. What do you think?
I think, Oloo, even as at now, Oloo, there is nothing in this country that is consumed unless those who are actually imported by scrupulous businessmen without really passing through the Kenya Bureau of Standards. So that is something that is in practice, and of course, just like drugs, before any drug is actually accepted into the country, they must undergo a lot of scientific examinations to ascertain the standard and the quality of those things that we are. So to the GMOs, the government must also be very much awake that this is a product that had been outlawed some time back, and now that it is being accommodated in our systems or in our production, they must look at the quality itself, they must look at the standard, they must look at also the safety of consumption of these products, because Kenyans are out there, they are hungry and they want food, so they may not be able to choose so much as to what is it that we have been given. Not unless we shall be taking 2 products or 3 products or how many types of products into the market, so that we ask the consumers, can you now choose which one? Can you take GMO or what? Maybe they can label this whether this is a GMO production, and this one is just like when you go to the car spare parts, you will put this is genuine, this is not genuine. I think if we go that direction, Kenyans will choose for themselves what they want. But so long as the quality, the safety of the people are actually ensured by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, that these things are safe and they are safe to consume.
All right. So finally on this one, Gilbert, what do you think? How should it be done? A particular segment of people should be given the mandate to oversee the production of GMO, or should it just be open, that I can go to any agrovet and get seedling and go ahead? Awareness
is good, so that the consumer knows that as Daktari is saying, that what I'm about to buy is a genetically modified
so
product.
You have a choice.
You have a choice. Yes. However, it doesn't just go end at that. You indicate that in this product, there is this particular herbicide that was used, this is the percentage, then you decide for yourself. Actually, that is what Cholet had actually wanted. We have about 40 herbicides and pesticides in this country that are known to have adverse effects.
Which were banned in some other countries.
In some other countries, by the way, even some of these companies have been banned in some other countries. So since we also need food, and when you're hungry, you have very little to bargain. Ukinipatia ugali, I will eat and ask whether that ugali is good later.
You're going to go dead.
You're going to go dead. I'll eat and ask, by the way, ilikuwa nzuri.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think that enhancement of information around this and awareness, and particularly the segmentation of the chemical components in this thing, so that I choose. But we must also speak about self-sustaining agriculture through irrigation.
How will it bridge the gap?
That it will bridge the gap, because we just need water, because what has brought the food situation we are having is lack of water, lack of rainfall. And yet there is a lot of water in this country that perhaps is just not well distributed. So the conversation around irrigation farming must begin immediately. Yes, it's not being spoken about.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that's okay, because when we talk about food, all of us depend on food. So at one point we'll find it on our table. So I think that was a perfect way to start the discussion. All right. So Parliament resumes today, gentlemen, and a lot is expected. But one of the things that mostly will feature in the floor of the House is the President's speech last week, and some of the, whatever will be on the order paper. Doctor, let me start with you. What do you think will be the beginning of the first official sitting of the Parliament today?
I think, Oloo, I think they have to come up, they are planning to come up with the leader of majority and all those things that you can imagine. And of course, that is a person who will be key in the whole parliamentary process. And in this case, those who have the majority members of Parliament will carry the day. And once we have those ones, the Parliament will keep it running. I mean, there is nothing more that will... And let me tell you, Oloo, the arrangements, I call them arrangements because they are still preparing themselves to do the day-to-day business that we elect them to do. Whatever the arrangements that they are having, electing the leader of majority, electing what and all this and that is their own business. But the most important thing here, Oloo, is that the business now of what should be happening in Kenya is actually taking its shape. And once they have themselves in place, I mean the leaders of different groups are actually in place. That's because now they are saying there's still the issue of Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. Some are saying these ones, both of them are claiming that they have the majority in Parliament. Whichever way it goes, Oloo, I think we'll live to see what will actually unfold once the election is done.
And the issue of numbers.
Yes.
130 something, 180 something.
Yes.
The issue, it's two-sided. The political aspect and the legal aspect.
Yeah.
How will it play?
It's really going to be a tussle, but I hope good manners will prevail. Actually, good manners just need to prevail because on paper, Azimio has more MPs than Kenya Kwanza. But just after elections, you have seen the reorganizations that are happening. I was once here, now I'm here. And that is really expected. But good manners, I think, should prevail because on paper, none of them has officially joined or perhaps written, except Moses Kuria, who did write to the Register Operator. I even saw a Gazette publication that is dissolving his party. And Opiyo Wandayi is angling for that position. And I had Kimani Ichung'wah also saying that perhaps the Speaker needs to be impartial. I'm imagining that the impartiality was referring to that is going to make a fair judgment that is going to be in the interest of all Kenyans. Whichever way it goes, I think the biggest task of the legislators in Parliament now, they are our representatives, fine. But the two other functions that they have, the oversight and perhaps legislation, the work begins today when they begin Parliament. And you know we have cabinet secretaries who are yet to be vetted. So I know they will also form their committees, and each and every committee will take the respective cabinet secretary.
Yes.
So there is a lot in play, but I think the Parliament will be full of new things.
Full of drama today. Because when you see Opiyo Wandayi, he's been campaigning quite, so he really wants that position. Kimani Ichung'wah at the same time. And the president is quite adamant because he wants to have the full grip of parliament. For the Senate is settled. The leadership of the Senate, the only thing that we're waiting for is now the committee members and whatever. But now leadership and the numbers in the Senate is a sealed deal. Doctor, when you look at the formation of parliament, the way it's going to be today, when you have from the speaker, all the House leadership belongs to the belongs to the ruling coalition. That's Kenya Kwanza. This sets a very heated ground for debates moving forward, because you'd imagine a house which is fully controlled by the government and we have the other side of the opposition.
I think, Oloo, you can remember last time when we had the presentation here, we were discussing about what we were witnessing at the County Assembly of Nairobi.
Yes.
Whereby Azimio had the majority of the MCAs and they were going to elect the speaker. Now we have the governor of Nairobi coming from the Kenya Kwanza, and the speaker, the speaker now is the leader. He's actually from the Azimio team. So I'm foreseeing something playing out during this. Who is to be the leader of majority and who is not to be the leader of But one thing I'm seeing, Oloo, there is no way we would that we have the leader of majority from the opposition, and then I don't foresee that kind of scenario unless. If the mode of the election that will take place in Parliament will stick as per the party itself, if they will say those who voted under Azimio must vote as a block, then I'm seeing the risk. If they will vote individually as per their willingness, every individual member, irrespective of their party affiliation, then of course most definitely Kenya Kwanza will take the day as the leader of the majority. So depending on how the whole thing will be managed, although that will also determine the outcome of what is going to transpire in the parliament.
Yes.
Because if they will stick to their individual parties under their umbrella, be it Azimio, be it Kenya Kwanza, and then I can see a real danger in the side of Kenya Kwanza. But if they will vote as individuals, away from their party affiliation, then Kenya Kwanza will carry the day.
I'm quite interested in asking you, Gilbert, because do you see a situation where someone would go to court to seek legal redress? Because there is the legal aspect and the political aspect. These people who moved, certain legislators who ditched Azimio to Kenya Kwanza, are still legally bound to be in Azimio as far as it is concerned. And here it is, they are going for voting, and boom, we have members from the Azimio voting for the other side. Can someone go to court and challenge whatever happened on the floor of the House?
You know, Parliament also has a role to make its own laws that perhaps then are subject to interpretation by the courts. Voting in Parliament is usually by secret ballot, and there is no law that says since you are voted as Kenya Kwanza or as UDA or whatever party, then I have to vote for this particular candidate. So therefore, if the party or perhaps the House so wishes that they would like someone, then that's the person who is going to be. But my view, and perhaps my hunch, is that I know William Ruto is keen to have an Aden Duale kind of leader of majority like we had in the previous administration, because the majority leader is actually the fulcrum of the House, is the link between Parliament and the State House.
Yes.
And they are not going to sleep until they make sure that they have the majority leader. I will not be surprised if Kimani Ichung'wah becomes the leader of majority, because as it is now, Azimio, perhaps they will ask, even if we had it.
So what if it goes the other way and Azimio carries the day?
Then so be it. People will have voted. Life continues. However, that really would dent perhaps the interest of the Kenya Kwanza, because remember, they have an agenda they would want to. There is legislation around amendment of National Hospital Insurance Fund, for example, and all these other bills that he is proposing. Now you can imagine you have a majority leader who is not whipping members in the interest of the legislative agenda of the president and the Kenya Kwanza team. So that really would be counterproductive for him, and they will not sleep. Based on what had happened at City Hall, they are not going to repeat it in the National Assembly. You can take that.
Doctor, what if?
Me, I'm not saying what if Oloo, not because I'm rigid, but going by what is supposed to be done. I mean, the kind of, if you have the leader of majority, that means much of what you want to do, much of what you are anticipating to do as the executive, you may not really achieve it if you don't have your own man on the ground. So there is a possibility that everything will be done to make sure that a man or a woman from Kenya Kwanza wins as the leader of the majority. Because they have done all the rest. Why not this one? There will be no miracle, Oloo. Kenya Kwanza will carry the day.
Kenya Kwanza will carry the day. Gentlemen, let's take a break. And when we come back, I'd still have a lot for us to talk about. When you look at the front page of the Star newspaper here, renegades lining up to topple Raila Odinga in Nyanza. We have got Evans Kidero, David Ochieng, Nicholas Gumbo, Dalmas Otieno, Okoth Obado, and so forth and so on. We're going to discuss that when we come back. How possible is it? All right. I have two gentlemen, Dr. Rotich and Gilbert Awino. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. Now let's shift gears and talk about, there's a story here on the front page of the Star newspaper. All right, there you have it. There you have it. Renegades lining up to topple Raila. Renegades lining up to topple Raila. That is on the front page. You see there we have got Evans Kidero, David Ochieng, Nicholas Gumbo, Dalmas Otieno, and former Governor Okoth Obado. Let me give you the background of that story. It says that here, it's quite interesting, 20 that their unprecedented efforts could now slow down the 77-year-old former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who says that Azimio will fight for its reform agenda. And a group of Nyanza leaders is boldly challenging the dominance of ODM leader Raila Odinga as the region and opposition's commander. Gilbert, let me start from there. As the region's commander, how possible is this?
Those are just bulls jostling for space. But the zeal and oomph that perhaps has characterized Raila's political stature is lacking in all those people. I have seen Kidero, for example, perhaps indicating that he will form a different party. He was an independent candidate, but now he's forming a different party. I've also seen that Gumbo is also jostling, and Okoth Obado has been a renegade for a very long time, and David Ochieng, for example, has also been that. But just as the newspaper characterizes them, a leader will eventually emerge. And the consequence of that emergence will be all this entropy that we are seeing with the political kingpins from that region. Apart from David Ochieng, the rest are from South Nyanza. And there has been a little dissatisfaction with between those two sides of Nyanza. There's the Central Nyanza, the Alego, Songa, where Orengo comes from, and then across the lake. Then there is the South Nyanza. And the people of South Nyanza have been feeling for a very long time that we do not have the so-called kingpin, and that's the area that Raila enjoys absolute support. So I imagine that perhaps they are doing this to catch the attention of the current president and to be able to have a space in the current administration. But a leader will eventually emerge. I don't know when that is, but it will definitely happen. Yeah.
Actually, the same question, how possible is this?
I think, Oloo, to me, the gentlemen actually are playing with fire.
What do you mean? This is politics, and politics is an open field.
Let me tell you, Oloo, when you look at the lineup of this leadership, talk of Obado, talk of Kidero, all these people, they have never been in line with Raila. And to me, if I can rightly put it this way, that they have been opposed to Raila for some time. And in this case, any leadership that will emerge in in the Nyanza Oloo must come with the blessings of Right Honorable Raila himself. But as of now, Raila don't seem to be quitting politics anytime soon. People are looking at age, people are looking at the kind of problems that he encountered. And you see, having the whole, almost half of the total population of Kenyan voters, although you cannot wake up in one day and say this guy is tired. Who can marshal that kind of support that Raila has? You cannot wake up just today and say this man is no more. You can say this man is no more when he's managing just a region of Kenya. But this is a national figure. When he's in Mombasa, he's home. When he's in Northeastern, he's home. When he's in Nyanza, he's home. At what level will this Kidero catch up with the cloud that Raila has? You see, there is a strong belief among the Luo Nyanza that Raila is a God-given leader. And for them to abandon him, it will be very hard. And even, let me tell you, most of the Luo Nyanza people, they don't see Raila as somebody who is getting old. I'm telling you the truth. They have that strong belief that Raila will live forever. And I know, even though that may not be, but as it is, Oloo, who is respected widely in this country? That when he goes to Rift Valley, people listen. When he goes to all these when he goes to this country,
was that statement on a lighter note?
That cannot go unchallenged.
No, let me challenge. But let me tell you,
was just fun.
My friend, I'm the immediate neighbor of the Luo Nyanza. I come from Kericho. It is actually about 45 minutes drive to Kisumu. These are people we have interacted. We are working with them. The way they talk, Raila is not going anywhere. So, as to this gentleman, the way I like the way the newspapers actually put it. They are trying to topple. You see, topple means it is not a genuine means. It is a means to take it over by force. So in this case, I think the only person who can succeed in the Luo Nyanza, you see, but there are people who have been direct soldiers, loyalists for Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Talk of Nyang'yong, talk of Amolo Tiende, talk of Wanga, talk of who. These are quiet lot, and they seem to be comfortable with where they are. So you cannot wake up today. How many governors they have? We talk about 20 something governors who are under Simio. I can say who are under Raila. You cannot wake up this morning and say this is going to be easy. It is not going to be a walkover. I think these guys must think of another thing.
Daktari is talking of hearsay. He may not. If you interact with people from that region, what they are currently facing is the disappointment of having supported someone who was assured you I'm going to take it, and every time he comes home having missed it, and there is always a reason for having missed it. So the disappointment, the despondency that you have amongst the people down there, and as a result, a lot of supporters, people who originally believed that Raila was the person who is capable of doing anything, are beginning to question whether really is that perception real, or perhaps it's just a belief that perhaps needs to be critically examined. And as a result, people are beginning to think that perhaps we need to think elsewhere. And that's the reason why you're seeing those gentlemen trying to see whether perhaps they can have a space. But as time has a way of also settling things. You say Raila is not going anywhere, but I think the time has come. Time is also not on his side, because we have a lot of younger people who perhaps also think that, when you're old, young people think you're someone else. You are not supposed to be even present. And there are a lot of younger people in that particular region who are thinking, okay, we need to look elsewhere. And I know as a result of that dissatisfaction, the person who will benefit from this is William Ruto, because William Ruto is exactly like Raila Amolo Odinga. They can go everywhere in the Republic and people will listen to them. And you see how he has been seducing the people from that particular area. And you will see what will happen in the future. It is William Ruto who potentially stands currently to inherit Raila's constituency, as opposed to the kingpins jostling for a space to inherit.
How will that pan out?
Looks like people are beginning to think that development matters more than political affiliation, because we have been politically affiliated to one person, and yet we continue to have bad roads, we continue to have poor education system, we continue to have our problems continue to exist. But here is someone who is promising you, in our village, Pala Market, when Ruto was the deputy president, he went there and there was electricity overnight. There is a road that has not been done, the road from Cadell all the way around the Homer Hills, all the way to Kendobe. That road is poorly done, and it has been going on for the last 5 years, and Ruto promised that that road is going to be done. So once they begin to see tangible, development appreciation, then you'll begin to see people responding in a positive manner. So essentially, there will not be hostility that has been characterized in the past, or has characterized that area in the past, because of people are beginning to feel that.
Let me ask you, when you talk of leaders like Evans Kidero, Nicholas Gumbo, David Ochieng, Dalmas, Okothobado, is there youth here?
Depends on what you call youth. There is the constitutional youth, and then there is the youth, the contextualized. The political youth is in the agility, how strong. Like Ruto, for example, can be defined as a youth. If you look at most of these people can actually be referred to as young politicians, but I know none of them has the charisma and the charm that Raila Odinga has had. So if they are hoping that they would inherit, no.
Some argue that, Dr. that Raila is completely under pressure right now to vacate the office, hang up his boots, or nurture some young talents. Of course, during the campaign, people would easily pinpoint, some personalities, person A, person B, person A, person B. But when we look at the political growth of Raila Odinga up to where he is right now, his story can be written for long. When you look at these leaders, do they really have that backbone to be at that level of where Raila Odinga is right now, to marshal, so to speak, the Luo, Nyanza, or the ODM backyard?
I think although Raila has a very strong history, it is almost becoming, you can trace Raila's history like, it's almost like a religion, because whatever Raila has done has impacted positively to the lives of the people of this country in one way or another. Talk about the constitution, talk about all the changes that we have really, seen in this country. He has played a key role in all those. And as my brother said, whatever is going to happen, if there will be anything called inheritance law, and the way I've seen His Excellency President doing as of now, so the other day he was in Homa Bay on a church service. Then he was in Mukuru Wanchenga. He's planning to visit Watu Kibra, and all these things. If you look at those movements, you can see the areas that he's moving to are more related to the people. The places that you find majority of the Nyanza people. And I'm foreseeing a situation of law whereby you saw what he said in the church, an AIC church in Homa Bay. He said he's planning. And he said first he respects Raila Odinga and His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. And he was asking the people, mutaniwachia niwaunganisha hawa. That is the language that nitawapanga hawa, mutanikubalia. This is, he's actually extending an olive branch. We had all the difference in politics, but it's a high time that we come together as Kenyans. What I'm foreseeing, Oloo, is that His Excellency the President himself will reach out to Raila, that we say, Mzee, come we talk. And Raila is somebody who is also very, very keen in joining up a team that is winning. His politics. He can even go to a place where you never imagined that he could go. He may be the one determining who to be who in future, along with Ruto. He may be even the first one to say, Ruto, we will work together, but this is what I want you to do. This is what my people would want to see you doing. Or I want you to see, I want to see you actually doing this to my people. And by doing so, Raila will determine in future who will be the inheritance after his political retirement. But he will have to use somebody. He will have to join the government. He will have to bring on board, he will have to enjoy the kind of support that he has been even enjoyed during the time of His Excellency the President, Kenyatta. So in this case, what Raila is going to do is exactly what he did when he joined Uhuru Kenyatta, when many people could least expect that such a thing would happen. So the same thing may play out towards Ruto. He may join Ruto and enjoy that kind of company and the leadership of this country. And of course, even being in the opposition, he knows that you have to be in the government to enjoy most of the resources. So in this case, he will definitely ask the Nyanza people that this is the man you should sustain while bringing on board his own people, and not necessarily the gentleman that you are seeing. That you are seeing here, Akina Kidero and all those. This Mzee is very smart. He will say yes. He will not allow these people to go ahead with Topolin. Instead, he will play them down before the time comes by being the first one to talk with Ruto and enjoy the kind of respect that is enjoyed as a statesman. But he will choose who will inherit him in the Asimio team or the ODM team.
Okay, Gilbert, a kingpin is okay. Should it be handpicked or self-made? Because when you talk of, okay, people would say that Honorable the President, William Ruto, is self-made politician. When we look at his history, way back from high school to university to YK 92, all the way to parliamentary positions to where he is right now, nobody held his hand and said he's going to be the kingpin up to where he is right now. But when you go to, he's a national leader, so to speak.
Yes, and if you look at Kenya, for example, apart from Uhuru Kenyatta, who was propped by the late President Moi, the rest of these political figures have actually been self-made, including Raila himself. But for you to understand, so my view is that none should wait for propping. It's a free-for-all. Community will respond to the person who appears to have stepped into the shoes of the person who has left or perhaps is leaving the scene. But you need to understand the history of the 5 gentlemen you have mentioned, covered by the Star newspaper. For example, Kidero did not benefit. He felt that he was not favored by Raila. Raila favored Wanga, and they were denied nomination. That has been his contention, that why didn't you allow us a fair play? So he felt that he wasn't Raila's favorite. If you look at Gumbo, for example, he was also left in favor of Orengo. And David Ochieng for a very long time has been going against, but he's the best performing MP. If you talk to people from his constituency, they will tell you that he has done very well, and that's why perhaps they keep electing him. Dalmas Otieno for a very long time has been a KANU person. He went to Uhuru until he realized he couldn't win, then he came to ODM, but you know where he actually... And Okoth Obado, for example, he first time in parliament he was in PDP, he came to ODM, and then just before the 2022 election, remember ODM had even sponsored toppling. But it couldn't work because the MCAs were comfortable with him. So these are people who ordinarily have, or perhaps at some point, they have had fallen out of favor with Raila Odinga. So you could say that it's payback time. They're trying to, pay back for perhaps what he should have done to them that they felt was not done. But ultimately, a king will emerge. And that emergence will not be as a result of people sitting down. It will be exactly what Ruto did when there was a gap that Moi left, and he started speaking to them in Kalenjin, through Kalenjin station. The Kalenjin started thinking like, okay, I think there is something this gentleman is doing. However, one thing that also has to be mentioned, that you cannot come out of nowhere. There has to be at least some favor. Even Ruto, when he began, he was a mkono guy of the president. He wasn't just from nowhere. So one has to dine in the council of the big people for them to get to that point.
He's almost agreeing with me that one has to receive the blessings of Right Honorable Raila in Nyanza for him to make any headway. I think, Oloo, what my brother is actually spoken, Raila, His Excellency the President Ruto has maintained his political stature since he was in school. Because even while he was seated with the royal families, he still identified himself with the Hustler Nation. And whatever whatever he has actually professed that he wants to see Kenyan being, promoting the hustler, the lower of the lowest of the lowest, is because even after dining with the kings, he never forgot his origin.
Okay, Doctor, let me ask you, what would be the danger of pointing or picking someone, say, okay, from today, Oloo is going to be the kingpin of area X, Y, or Z, as opposed to self-made? You nurture someone, let him run through the ropes, and let people decide on them.
Anybody who is donated Oloo would be as a result of a personal interest. But when you see somebody who has actually grown up naturally, it is actually through the support of the people themselves. So that is the difference. I may say Oloo is fit to hold this position, but that could be for my own personal interest. But when the majority of the people identify somebody and say, this should be our leader, they must have observed how this leader has been, how he has shown the leadership qualities, how he's been able to be very productive and resourceful to the to the community. So natural leadership are actually more, I can say, more permanent, even in their future, than those who are actually appointed or given. So that is why leadership always, you must take it by force. You don't really negotiate for it. But as for the case of my brother, he said that you cannot germinate from somewhere and become somebody. Especially in the Luo Nyanza, it is very difficult without the blessing of Allah.
Okay, some of the politicians pushing for the new leadership in Nyanza include Evans Kidero, former Nairobi governor, former Kisumu governor Jack Ranguma. We have got former Migori governor Okoth Obado, former Lake Basin Development Authority chairman Odoyo Owedi, former cabinet minister Dalmas Otieno, former East Africa Community CAS Ken Obura, Ugenya member of parliament David Ucheng, former Rangwe MP Martin Ogindo, former Kisumu Senator Fred Outa, and former Rarieda Member of Parliament Ken Obura. One word is dominant here, former.
Former.
Some of these people were actually in the same bracket with Raila Odinga. All of them. Perhaps you can say that they passed through the Raila Odinga class of politics. They've campaigned together. Some of them are beneficiaries of ODM, and they're now former. But then, what do you really think is now coming to Gilbert? That push now from people who worked with you, people who you supported through the party, now coming back and say that it's now time for you to exit. It's now our time to sit on that seat.
Those people are a consequence of what Raila has been accused of in that area for a very long time. The way Ruto said, Nitawapanga. His nature of politics has been an awapanga. When he gets there, he says, I want so-and-so, I want so-and-so, I want so-and-so. It has worked, but in 2022, it appeared not to have worked because it created a lot of resentment. There are people I spoke to and told me Raila was my candidate until he said he's supporting so-and-so. And prior to 8th of August, Raila would hold rallies and none of these people was allowed to accompany him. So as a result, Raila did not actually get a solid base that he so needs to be able to negotiate at the top. But now, when you're out of power, we don't have leader of opposition. Everyone is looking for an opportunity to dine with the great people. And this is exactly what these people are doing. And perhaps they are creating an alternative voice so that when there is a conversation around the people of Nyanza, then the president can actually now not look at Raila and go to them and say, gentlemen, what really do we think? But at the end of the day, all these things have happened in the past. How they will pan out, only time will tell. But you cannot, at this point, underestimate Raila. Significant, his political stature may have diminished greatly in that particular area, but cannot be completely ruled out at this moment in time. Considering that you have the so-called renegades.
Okay, let's bring it here. We have got all these gentlemen from all this lineup. So let's say, okay, fine, they've done it. They've toppled Raila Odinga. Let's just create a scenario. So who do you think would be the leader now? We have got Kidero, Ranguma, Okoth Obado, Owedi, Dalmas, Ken Obura, David Ucheng, Martin Ogindo, Outa, and Ogumbo. Starting with you, Doctor.
I think, I must say, while I don't want to negate the aspiration that these gentlemen are doing, you see, they want to create a situation whereby they want to provide an alternative leadership. That is the position that they are now. Yes, they failed. Yes, they have been with Raila. Yes, of course, they have benefited in the past through Raila's support. But as of now, they feel now that they are no longer, that they are all former. They want to cage up a position of an alternative leadership so that they can make themselves relevant to the current government. Because they are saying, if Ruto will look at them, they say, this can be my alternative. He will start with them by accommodating them. But to me, my observation is, Oloo, I'm not seeing any one of these people really rising up to the occasion whereby they will outstage Raila just that way. It is very impossible. In fact, the only people who will actually finally benefit in this process are those people who are with Raila up to now. Because Raila will not hand over a baton of politics, I'm not saying a baton of leadership, a baton of politics to somebody who has been renegating, somebody who has been fighting him. He will not do that. And that, as I am saying, and if we are talking about having the support of almost half of the country, my friend, you cannot just whisk away. And even this one, this one has come very soon. Raila is not about to retire in politics. That is my observation, Oloo.
Yeah.
Because having such a mammon crowd, not unless he will be full, I mean, if he can, because of the age and all that, but even at 80, at 82, at 85, he can still fight for this position. So there is nobody, there is no power that maybe after reaching that age, he will have actually abandoned politics. What I'm foreseeing here, I'm foreseeing a situation whereby he may decide to join up with Ruto and in fact he had even said, he said we would have gone more in a bitter road to realizing our dream, but because of the advice, the pieces of advice that he got, and that he loves the peace of this country, he has to support the government. So,
do you think they'll have another handshake?
There is no handshake here, Oloo. What His Excellency the President has said, he even confessed while he was in the church. He said he will be working to all the Kenyans. So he was in Homa Bay. And what you saw, Oloo, is that Kenyans are far away from the bitterness of the past. I mean the political affiliation. Because they came up in a big way to welcome His Excellency the President. And in any case, let me tell you, Right Honorable Raila Odinga will strike even I can say a friendly opposition where they will still be productive even where they are. You can collaborate, you can work with the government. Not necessarily that you are supporting everything, but you are giving the government in checks and balance. That does not mean also that you are sinning. You are playing your key role. So in this case, Nyanza people will get the real development that other parts of the country will get, not necessarily because because of their political affiliation, but because of the confession that His Excellency the President has said he will support every part of this country. Okay,
gentlemen, I'm told we're coming to running out of time, but let me ask you this question: what's your quick assessment? The President, 3 weeks into office so far. Settling?
Yes, and I think he's on the trajectory that he had wished to take. Remember that he said, I would not want someone to be treated the way we have been treated. Now we can get back to ordinary calls. We cannot be using WhatsApp calls anymore. So I think now, like every other person who has been unhappy with a particular situation and he finds himself in a situation where he can correct, I have seen that the President is keen to correct the past and move forward. As to how it will be, every leadership every political dispensation comes with its share of successes and failures, but I hope the President seems to be quite in touch with the things he had said he wants to do, and those are the things exactly that he will do, because when he says he will do something, usually he does.
Doctor, we are seeing a complete shift from the most vocal William Ruto during campaigns to almost quiet, and you would not even think that he's in the country. The reality is now dawning, and it's a big office, and it comes with a lot of responsibility, I would assume.
I have said, Oloo, he's actually a changed man.
Completely.
From the politics of, from the politics of confrontation to the politics of, there's a lot of peace. And even you saw when he was in Mukuru Wachenga, during this housing issue, he was asking the members of parliament, please, as we go back to parliament, vote for these policies. We cannot do this without you voting. He was requesting across the board that can we vote for these policies, that can we pass the laws that will enable us actually progress, that will enable us actually do what we had actually planned to do. So in this case, he's a very polite guy, he's a very shrewd, he looks forward, he wants to have everybody on board, and that is why there is that kind of mistake. People are thinking that they want to bring a one party state. That is not the case. What this is actually doing is to bring Kenyans together, to create an enabling environment for all the agendas that he has actually promised to Kenyans that he is going to deliver. And you cannot deliver in an atmosphere of hostility. So that is why he's calling for all the Kenyans to come on board. And as my brother said, that Ruto is a very Democrat. He's actually, akisema nitawapanga, he cannot dictate that you have to follow this direction. He also asked, can we do this thing? I've seen in most of the forums, I come from, these other regions whereby, alikuwa kiuliza wananchi, please, if it is possible, my own request, vote for so and so. So in this case, I'm foreseeing a change that will benefit Kenyans and Kenyans at large alone. When you see him, he's very potential. As much as we have actually emerged from a very bad economy, I'm seeing in the few months that we have, he has created a lot of confidence among the Kenyans that all is well. And what we are, as we look ahead, Kenya will succeed as a country.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm afraid we're running out of time, but things must be done kimpango, so that CPA tumepangwa. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Rotich, who is an analyst, but an economist, with a lot of respect to that. I wanted to ask you how our economy is doing as far as shilling is concerned. There's that battle between the deputy president and the governor of the central bank, but hey, that's a discussion for another day. For another day.
Let me say something.
No. We are running out of time. Kindly.
Thank you so much.
Gilbert, Awino, who is a legal expert and a political commentator as well. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, that's where we wrap it up. We are taking a break, but GMK still continues after this.